Section 3.2 of the Security Plus talks about enterprise infrastructure. So what does this cover? We will first start talking about infrastructure considerations. So how do you place devices within the network? How do you set up your failure modes? Is it fail open, fail closed? And what are the different types of ways in which you can place devices? Then we will talk about some network appliances like IPS, IDS, load balancers, firewalls, and the different types. And finally, we will talk about secure communication and access. So tools like VPNs, IPsec, TLS, and more. So infrastructure considerations. How do you place your devices within a network? The positioning of devices within the network ensures optimal performance. The way you place your devices within the network ensure that your devices work efficiently. For example, imagine if you're in a home, in an apartment, it's better to place the router for internet at the center of the apartment or somewhere where multiple people can access, in an apartment or a house, compared to placing it at an extremity where people at the other end will not be able to have a fluent access. So it's important to place devices in the right way. Also, segment networks with varying levels of security. Some zones can have more security than other zones. This is an example of the way devices are placed in the network. This is just a very high level example where you have this person first connected to a firewall when he tries to access the network. Then within the network, you can have an intrusion prevention system, which is followed by a VPN, for example, to give him internal access. Then the VPN, you have a VLAN. What does a VLAN does? A VLAN is a virtual local area network that splits the network into sub-networks. So it splits the network into virtual smaller networks, and some parts of the network will be more secure or protected than others. It's also important to minimize the attack surface to reduce point of compromise. Rather than having your entire network under one subnetwork, you split it into multiple smaller zones and you have smaller attack surfaces, which are all protected by firewalls and security tools. The sum of all points where a user can enter is the attack surface, and you want to disable unused services, you want to disable ports, you want to remove unnecessary software so that your attack surface is smaller, so that the amount of areas in which an attacker can get in is smaller. Active devices usually interact with network traffic and they are in line with traffic. They influence the flow of traffic, just like we saw here. You have active devices here which are in line with traffic, so traffic flows along these devices. You have passive devices. Passive devices, the network flows without altering those devices. For example, you have some intrusion detection systems or some sensors that work passively. They don't prevent access, but they more like overlook the network. And this is an example. So at the top, you have a passive monitoring. Here you have a user who is connecting, goes through a firewall, through a switch, and different security tools. So when he connects, after he goes through the firewall and gets to the switch, he's able to go to the server, but part of the communication is transmitted to the network intrusion detection systems such that they get a copy. And if there was a problem during the transmission or the network traffic, they can raise an alert, but it will not prevent anything going on. With inline monitoring, it's a little bit different because the communication goes inline or on the same path with the security devices and network traffic. So what happens is when a user he tries to get into the network, the intrusion detection system can allow or can deny access to the user. So that's passive. The communication is read passively, or inline, it's in real time. And you have different failure modes. How does a system behave after a failure? You have fail open. Fail open means a system will continue to operate in its default state even during a failure. For example, on a real life example or not related to tech, yeah, imagine you have a gate, for example. If a security system fails at the gate, you want to leave the gate open so that people who live at the place can come in and go out without being blocked. Or if there is a fire, for example, they can exit without being blocked. That's fail open. A firewall that allows all traffic, if it fails, is a fail open mode because if it fails, all traffic gets in, that will be a fail open mode. This is different from fail closed. Fail close is a system that blocks all operations during a failure. Like if there is something, if there was a problem, it blocks all operations. And before giving you the technical example, I'll give you a real life example. Imagine if you have a safe where you store all your money, and then there was a computational problem, and the system fails. It will fail close, so it will be locked unless I think a specialist or someone experienced comes and does everything to open. So that's fail close. It secures everything that's in there. Fail open in that case will be, the device opening and working and not being able to lock. And in a technical example, it's like a firewall that blocks everything if there's a failure. So if there's a failure in the firewall, it will block every incoming traffic. So fail open, allow everything to come in during a failure, and fail close, block everything and secure everything. But you don't want to have fail close in everything, because for example, imagine you have a fail close on an automatic door and there is a fire inside a building. People will not be able to run and evacuate the buildings. In that case, you want to fail open. If there is a problem, it will fail open and let people go out. Meanwhile, fail close does the opposite. It locks everything.
All right, guys, what did you think of this course? You liked it? Great. We're glad you did. You can follow us on all our social media platforms, including YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. And don't forget, we also have these awesome Amazon flashcards to help you study. So definitely check out www.cybermook.com to order yours today.